Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're here to tell you how we felt about Elysium.
That's right. Okay, so Elysium is basically, it starts out in what appears to be a dystopian future. And it follows, it starts out with this little boy who ends up being the younger version of Matt Damon's character, who seems bent on getting to Elysium and taking his small female friend along in the future. In our present day, we see Matt Damon's character is kind of a bent and broken man who's trying to, on the rebound, if you will, into society. He's kind of a convict, we learn, and he works for a factory. And in the course of working for the factory, he's dealt some severe medical problems that all of a sudden raises his need to get back to Elysium. It's always been kind of a dream of his, but now he really has to get back to. He has to go to
get
Elysium.
there in the first place.
Yeah, get there in the first place. He has to get to Elysium, so that becomes his main driving factor. So he needs to get there, and he enlists some of his friends' help. He calls in some favors to get there, and basically he spearheads what could be ultimately considered the takedown of Elysium.
Mm-hmm. Brandon, how did you feel about Elysium?
How I felt about Elysium was I felt like I didn't need Elysium, I needed Valium. What can I say about this movie? District 9 look-alike, very much. District 9 was not a movie I enjoyed. I felt that it was centered way too much around one character, Matt Damon. I thought this was going to be about class warfare, if you will, mm-hmm. and it didn't turn out to be so much that as another one-man story of healing, if you will. It was visually stunning. There were a lot of good things visually that I enjoyed. Lots of seamless CGI, interesting technology, based in reality in that point. But I wanted more of a take down the system story than a one man's journey. Again, I did not care for this movie. I cared for it more than I thought I would, but less than I'd hoped. It was not my cup of tea. I felt that there was some good acting going on by Matt Damon and his supporting cast, but overall, I didn't get enough character development. Jodie Foster's character was extremely underused, and I just did not enjoy this movie. So I'm gonna say I'm not feeling it.
Brandon, this movie made me feel like I was just numb. Just numb is how this movie made me feel. Boy, if I thought I had become, in our modern age of movie watching, really desensitized to violence, I became either more or less so here, I'm not sure. Wow, was this violent? Yes. And I don't know that it needed to be as violent as it was. And gory, yeah. And actually, I think the gore was a worse problem for me. When you have a movie like this, it's a dystopian future. It's kind of trying to make people think, here's what could happen if we don't change some things. Sometimes that sort of thing is warranted because we have to, as the audience, feel sucked into that universe and feel why it's so bad, right. Why it's so screwed up. And so sometimes that kind of that kind of violence and gore and making us feel uncomfortable is necessary. I'm not saying that just on the surface, because I felt uncomfortable, it's a bad movie. The problem is there were places I thought it was a little glorified, and where the way the shots were framed, the way the cameras moved, it felt very much like some of the violence I was supposed to enjoy on a primal level of get that guy, and I didn't want to experience that that way. I didn't like that. There were maybe a couple of places where like one of the robot cops got blown up, and I was supposed to kind of say, "Yay, the robot cop got blown up," because they're obnoxious and terrifying. Because they're terrifying, and so that's okay. That sort of thing. But it did feel very much like a somewhat glorification of violence kind of movie. I don't know if it was intended that way, but it came off that way sometimes. And I didn't feel like that with District 9. And I didn't like District 9 either. But at least I felt like
that's very different from District 9.
Yeah, but at least there. Yeah, but I think that they're very comparable films. I think it's impossible not to think about that movie when watching this if you've seen it, because it's the same kind of like the whole world in the future is a ghetto kind of movie. But here it's not. It's not that we're subjugating aliens. It's that we have the same kind of social class problems we have now, except exacerbated by 1,000 because of overpopulation and those sorts of things. Mostly overpopulation and also. And also pollution, and the movie opened, and when the camera pans over our city, and you see how polluted and messed up everything is, I was just like in my head, I was hearing the voiceover from Captain Planet. Our world is in peril,
and it was Los Angeles too.
It was like I didn't even get a sense of which city it was. I guess I never noticed.
They mentioned it was Los Angeles, and the thing that I kept coming back to was, here is Hollywood doing its own city in the dystopian future, and I felt like they weren't pulling it off.
Let me real quick say some of the stuff I really liked about it. Like you said, there's some stunning visuals. This is a really great looking movie. At no point did I feel like the special effects weren't integrated well with the live action. It looked really good. And this, and I want to see this kind of because this is a traditional science fiction movie. This kind of like dystopian. Like saying there are problems with our world. This is how bad it could get. That kind of a movie. You want to see some great production value behind that, so that we believe that world. So visually, I believed that world.
Right.
I thought Matt Damon was well cast. I thought he was quite good in the movie. I didn't care about him like I thought I ought to have. Right. But I thought he was well cast. What else did I like? I thought that there were some inspired choices in technology. One of the problems that we have sometimes with trying to make modern science fiction, the biggest hurdle in making traditional science fiction in 2013 is that we live in a world of science fiction. We live in the world that people 40, 50 years ago writing science fiction were predicting in a lot of ways, right? And so it's very difficult to do futuristic technology that feels futuristic enough, because we might get there in 5 years, or we might have something so close to it now that it doesn't feel futuristic. Right. There was a lot of technology in this movie where I was like, wow, I don't know if we'll ever have that. And other things where I just thought that was a creative choice. There's one point where there's a gun that where you shoot a laser onto whatever it is that you want to blow up, and you get to scroll through shapes to decide what shape of explosion you're going to have, where it goes like square and then circle and triangle. I thought that was really cool. There was a personal shield at one point. There's some really advanced medical technology, perhaps a little bit too advanced.
I don't know. Well, I thought the scanners were good. I liked the scanners because it was kind of a take on what we currently have, like an MRI, only reduced down and did more, which is the trend in technology.
So that's good, but I mean, really, still, you're telling me that in like 140 years or so, we're going to be able to cure leukemia in 5 seconds?
I think it was about 100.
Okay, cure it, sure,
years.
But it was what was it, 2154?
Was it 54?
Yeah,
I thought it was like 25,
no,
21, 25.
No, it was 21:54.
Okay, okay.
And because remember, I turned to you and made the joke in the theater, well, we're only 7 years before First Contact, so making fun of Star Trek. Well, we're only 7 years before First Contact, so of course it looks like such a dystopia. You made, sorry if I'm going on too long, you made the point that you thought that it wasn't enough of the class warfare thing, and that it wasn't, and that you would have wanted more of a revolution kind of story. I thought there was too much of that. It gets really predictable for me in the third act, and honestly, kind of all the way through. We'll talk about this a little bit more before I flip my sign up. I felt like there were a lot of way too easy plot points all coming together to fabricate this way for him to get up into space, which I just didn't buy.
Sure.
There were too many things that came together in too contrived of a fashion where I resisted it.
Well, that's why I wanted more class warfare.
That was a difficulty for me. But the thing was, when you get this really complicated future of you have the haves and the have-nots, and they can't figure out how to live together and work together, so they just separate themselves. And so there's this huge difference where the have-nots have nothing and the haves have everything. That kind of thing. I don't want to see that. Usually, I could be made to think that it worked. I didn't here. So I mean, I don't want to make a blanket statement. Yeah, it can work, but generally speaking, I don't want to see that solved in one movie. I have a difficult time with one guy basically fixes the world, and so it's a really optimistic message at the end, but it's the obligatory obvious kind of happy ending kind of thing. I mean,
there's no reason that we could not have gotten to this ending in this movie. It could have been left unsaid.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it just depends on the kind of movie you're wanting to make, but I would have rather had a personal story set with this as the backdrop to explore those social class sorts of things. What we got instead was a really, really plot-driven, by-the-numbers, this is really terrible, somebody by the end has to fix it. And I just don't think it has as much interesting to say about present-day society.
Right.
With that, it's all just too easy. We'll talk about that anyway. So obviously, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling it. There's some really good stuff in this movie. It's a well-made movie. It's a great-looking movie. But I just didn't like a lot of stuff at the premise level.
Yeah.
Well, not even the premise is okay. I feel like, okay, let me start here.
Okay.
And tell me what you think of this. So, you've got, first of all, a double motivation with your protagonist. You've got a guy who since he was a child always wanted to get up and go to Elysium. What kid wouldn't have? I had a difficulty with this being the thing that separates this guy from everybody else, and it really feels like the movie wants you to think that this is the kid that wants to go to the place where bad things don't happen to people.
And of course, he's squashed by society.
Yeah. So you have that kind of typical thing. I mean, I feel like you're as a kid, you're going to have more of the naive kind of that place is great, and I'm a dreamer, so someday I'm going to get there. And then as an adult, you might condemn the whole system, and you maybe wouldn't want to go there as much because you hate that it's there in the first place, and that if you were there, you would become one of those elite snob people that look down on all the people on Earth, which is where you came from in the first place. That kind of thing. So like ultimately, the guy wants to get there because he's going to die in 5 days, and if he doesn't get there, he's going to get healed. I don't know that we needed both of those things because after that, he's just desperate.
Yeah, I felt that it turned into a desperation movie. That's pretty much like one man's quest. Again.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, like, it was the same problem I had with World War Z. I didn't tune in to see Brad Pitt's story of how he's going to fix the world of zombies.
Yeah.
I tuned in to see a movie about Well, I don't even know what I tuned in to see. I didn't know what was going on with this movie.
Well, the difference for me is that I do want to see one man's quest. What I mean is, I want a character piece set in this world. I want to see this guy going through stuff with this as the backdrop. You see what I'm saying?
I get you.
How would your life be different from the way it would be in our present day if you lived in that society? So so what I mean is you explore the class warfare and all that stuff through the lens of this one person.
Right, and I understand that. I can.
So yes, you do want it to be one man's journey. You just don't want it to be that guy going off and saving the world, because what's the point at the end of the day?
Yeah, okay, you got me on that one.
Yeah.
I will adjust kind of what I'm saying and make a more well-rounded statement.
Right.
Is I don't want to see his desperation story, if you will, because that's exactly what it turned into. He becomes desperate to get to Elysium. Like, it turns into just sort of a dream he used to have, and all of a sudden it's his quest. He has to get there or he's gonna die.
Honestly, I would have been kind of more okay with it if it had just been that and they left out the whole dreaming business.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a sense of urgency. You need that. He's got to have a reason.
All of a sudden he has to get there.
He's got to have a reason. He's got to get there right now. The difficulty I had with it is, I don't want to rewrite the movie. So the difficulty that I had with it was, everything comes together extremely easily.
Yeah.
So you've got this guy who's got to get there, and he has to solve, or he has to do this job for the guy who the underground black market guy who sends ships up into space. By the way, I don't know how that operation would even work.
I don't either.
I have no idea how they're managing.
They could track that.
Yeah, seriously. If with a button they can shut it down, how can they not figure out that they're doing it in the first place?
Right.
But anyway, so he sends him, not to go too far into the story and exactly what's going on, but basically that guy sends him on a mission and to go download information from another guy's head. Again, I'm liking the technology stuff. I like that all that was in there. I was okay with the muscle suit and stuff. That was all kind of fun.
That was the exosuit. The exosuit,
cool. Yeah. But anyway, so he gets to pick his mark. All he has to do is pick somebody who goes back and forth to that planet.
Right.
And so he picks the jerk face who runs the company that got him sick in the first place. Yeah. And that just happens to be the guy who has the information from a coup that he and Jodie Foster have just started, like, a day ago.
Yeah, it happens to be this guy.
That can shut down all of Elysium and let the working class people take it over. But that is way too convenient for me.
Here's the problem I had with that particular scenario.
Yeah.
He didn't create it to let the working class have. He created it so that Jodie Foster could orchestrate the coup. So then how all of a sudden does it allow everyone to become
that's a great question. I didn't even ask that.
Yeah. I didn't understand that at all. Like, all of a sudden, and not only that, but the underground guy figured out what that code was way too quickly just by looking at it on his screen.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knew what this was, and he says, oh that's a reboot code. Oh, okay, like, where'd you come up with that, buddy?
I just thought that the background is the backdrop is working for me.
Right.
But the story they're telling is not only typical, but it's kind of lazy in my mind. I just think it's too easy. You're preaching to the choir when you make a dystopian film where the whole idea is, boy, isn't this bad? Somebody should really give the power back to the people. Like, yeah, that's the obvious place to go, you know? Tell a personal story about what living in that would be like, and then do all of your political. It's not even allegory, really. It's kind of right on the surface, right? I mean, do all of your political and social commentary within the framework of an involved story about a guy that has something he wants. He tries to go get it, but not make it, because the thing is, he's not even going there to take down the system. That all falls in his lap.
It all falls in his lap, and it's funny you should say allegory, because I was going to say we should have just watched Animal Farm instead.
Yeah, that's a great point. You should have written that. This made me want to watch Animal Farm.
Exactly. In the end. in the end, I see exactly where I was looking for something slightly different than what you were looking for, but I felt the backdrop was working. We both kind of felt the backdrop was working.
Yeah.
But we're kind of looking for a couple of different things from this movie, neither of which was what we got in this movie.
But I mean, how many times have you seen the system is terrible and one person in a 2-hour film breaks it down and fixes it?
Every episode of Star Trek, actually.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
I've seen that a few times.
So I don't know. I thought Jodie Foster's performance was not that good.
It was not that good, and we didn't get enough. Like, I mean, granted, her performance wasn't that great, but we didn't get enough of her story. Like,
there wasn't a story there.
There wasn't.
That character.
I wish there had been.
Yeah, but that wasn't a character. I mean, ultimately, what you're picking up on, I think, is the fact that was a total wooden character, and there was just nothing behind the eyes. There was nothing there.
Nothing there. Yeah. As is like most of Jodie Foster's characters.
And that was most of the characters in the film. I am really perplexed by the psycho sniper guy, who is ultimately kind of Matt Damon's kind of lead antagonist by the end.
Nemesis.
Nemesis. By the time you get to the end and he's trying to kill Matt Damon like crazy, I have no idea what is fueling that guy other than he's crazy.
Well, he's crazy, but he all of a sudden got it. What is with all of a sudden people getting vendettas against other people?
I don't even know what his vendetta was about.
The grenade exploded in his face, remember?
By the way, I didn't need that.
No, that was too much gore right there.
Yeah.
But I will say this, the effect of his face reconstructing
looks great.
Really cool. But I didn't need to see his face get blown off. And how does your face get blown off and your brain activity stay intact? I want the system said brain activity normal. No, I don't think so. That brain activity is crazy. I almost just said a word I can't use on the channel. He's crazy. Say it that way.
Also, I spent part of the movie thinking, wow, I need to get into score writing. I need to get into composing films, because apparently you can write a whole movie with nothing but yeah. That's all you need. Like, I'm pretty sure I could write that 50 times and I've got a score now.
And as we saw in a couple of previews as well, and in this movie, more noise in space. Like,
yeah, that's
you're gonna get it right,
yeah.
But I mean, I kept thinking like, well, that's not gonna happen. Like,
that's a standard sci-fi thing. I don't care.
I know it is.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, looks really good, but ultimately, it could. There was something here, and they just didn't. They just didn't mine it. They went for the obvious thing. They went for the obvious story, I think.
Yeah. I also like there was no reason that Elysium had to be located in space. Like, why did it have to be off planet?
Yeah, except that. I didn't
driving
think of that.
the point home that we're in the future, of course, but like it didn't.
Well,
have to
and
be...
the classic overpopulation thing. This is not the first time that science fiction has done a story where we're overpopulated and the rich people go into space. But I guess I can see it in that you would assume if you're these snobby rich people that want to live in space and let all the riffraff stay behind, that once you're in space they can't get to you.
Right.
So I would assume that would be the big reason. Also remember pollution.
They
kept talking about how the air was hard to breathe.
That's right.
Didn't seem to really be a problem for the people on Earth. I mean, it sucks, but I kept wondering.
Those guys were being snobby.
I guess. Well, yeah, but clearly that was a big motivator for their leaving in the first place. I guess I just needed more talk about like the fact that the pollution was what was causing so much of the illness, and that people weren't living as long. Like I didn't immediately get that from what I was seeing. I think that was probably the idea, but I just
probably. And we did get some interesting shots of the Earth where we see the Earth in a much different state, continental-wise. Things have kind of pushed together.
Yeah.
It's not quite far enough in the future for them to have been pushed that far off. We get more of a Pangea, actually, a futuristic Pangea. But it was interesting to see the evolutionary cycle as they just kind of gave us, like, this is obviously the future. We see the globe and we see this big land mass.
Ultimately, I was disappointed. I wanted to love this movie, and I felt like, because I mean, you know, I don't get enough classic science fiction anymore, and so when somebody does one, you know, I want it to be great. And granted, this is one of my big genres, so I have a tendency to have pretty high standards for it. But I mean, like, I'm really sick of this level of gore, and I'm really sick of seeing people throw up on screen. And
oh yeah, that happened.
A movie's got to own that. You know, I mean, like, it happens in The Matrix, and I was okay with it there, and then you know, so like, there's movies where I've seen that, and it's okay, but I don't know, I just felt like this movie didn't own that. I felt like it was more about pushing the envelope of that stuff, and the envelope's been pushed, guys. I mean, like, there's no envelope left, you know? You know, it's
in this envelope through the paper
in the
shredder.
Mailbox, yeah, and it's not coming back, like... Anyway, that's just how I feel about it.
They sent it to Elysium is where they sent it, yeah.
Right. I doubt they have a mail ship. Oh, and so many of the spaceships look like the Firefly design.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I wondered about that. Anyway. Well, everybody thinks... Oh, sorry.
One other thing. Yeah. Speaking of District 9, as I looked up afterwards, the guy who played Kruger was in District 9.
Right.
I don't know who he played. I didn't look that up, but... More District 9 parallels.
Yeah, there were a lot of recognizable people, especially kind of minor characters who played minor characters in other things I'd seen. The guy who runs the factory. Plays the guy the mob bank president from the beginning of Dark Knight.
Is that where I've seen him from?
Yeah, that's who that was.
I knew I'd seen him from something. Okay.
That was cool.
All right.
And then, like, the...
and Jodie Foster, she's played big parts. And
then, like, the captain of the Kelvin from Star Trek was the president.
Yeah. That was cool.
So there were some good actors in the film, but... Anyway, ultimately, it just, you know, it could have been a lot better.
Valium.
Everybody, thanks as always for watching us review a new movie, and Sarah and I in the next few days are going to bring you a review of Planes, so look forward to that, and then Brandon and I will be back with you again next week, so lots of new movie reviews coming up. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And we'll see you next time.